In 2024, Iran faced a year of intensified conflict and geopolitical turbulence. The long-standing tensions with Israel reached new heights, culminating in direct confrontations, while regional dynamics involving Lebanon, Syria, Yemen and Iraq further complexified the situation. Amid these escalations, Iran maintained its commitment to regional influence and retaliatory actions, further shaping the Middle East's volatile landscape. In 2024, Iran faced major political upheaval, including the tragic helicopter crash that killed President Ibrahim Raisi and key officials, and the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. These events led to a snap election and the inauguration of Masoud Pezeshkian as president. As Iran deals with economic struggles, regional instability, and shifting foreign policy, the country navigates a turbulent path ahead. For further analysis on the political upheavals in Iran in 2024, including the impact of President Raisi's death, the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh and the subsequent formation of a new government, we're joined from Cairo by the Iranian Studies Professor, Dr. Ahmed Lashin. Dr. Lashin, welcome to Qnews. We'll start off with the death of President Raisi. Now, how did the helicopter crash in May 2024 impact Iran's political landscape?
Good evening to you and your audience. The incident of Raisi has an impact on several levels, in particular on the popular official and the regional levels. The popular level, there was a popular shock within Iran regarding the death of Raisi in that way. As the Iranian situation inside, that there was a big concern and the possibility of the Iranian state to secure the president of the republic. Officially, doors were open for conflict domestically or within the official institution in Iran. Ibrahim Raisi wasn't only the president of the republic, but he was a very prominent name in the Iranian system, and he was nominated to replace the Ali Khamenei, and his death came to reformulate the political equations in the Iranian system in general. On the regional level, Raisi was in a had a very good project politically in the regional neighborhood. With respect to particular the Arab Gulf countries or restore the relationship with the Egyptian state and others his ambitions regionally. His death came to cause the rearrange of the cards with respect to the regional political aspects, and hence the landscape following the death of Raisi was opened in a state of hesitation politically inside. In addition to the restore of the moderate current, or rather the reform current as an alternative of the political current represented by Raisi at that time, which is in a hard line belonging to the Iranian state strongly. The death of Raisi opened the door of the possibility of the emerging the opposition political current, on top of which the reform won, and the other current that targeted to be in the front of the political landscape during the phase followed by Raisi. This emerge of Pezeshkian, or the presidential election, represented by the contradictions parties of that process in that time, the very hard-lined current of Said Khalidi, or the semi-reformal or moderated by Pezeshkian, and the result was in favor of the reform. And therefore, the death of Raisi in that way that opened a great space of contradictions domestically, and in addition, a space of political conflict that has still impact in Iran within inside.
Well, Dr. Lashin, now you've mentioned how the impact really the death of Raisi impacted the governance of Iran domestically, but also how did the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh affect the regional dynamics between Iran and Israel?
The assassination of Ismail Haniyeh was a turning point or pivotal point in the escalations of the Israeli-Iranian relationships. Firstly, that proved undoubtedly that there was a very strong Iranian violations by Israel that showed afterward, as announced by Israel, that the spot of residence of Ismail Haniya was breached, that reflected the weakness of security of the VIP and also the capabilities of Israel in breaching very, very important spots. Also, the timing of assassination was a very important point. Firstly, he was assassinated upon the inauguration of Pezeshkian as a clear message from Israel to Iran that the inauguration reception would turn over to a very dangerous crisis inside Iran. The assassination of Ismail Haniyeh that give a chance of negative relationship between Israel and Iran and mutual accusation were public, not just singles that showed in the political discourse of the Iranian political. And there was a clear accusation for Israel penetrated the domestic landscape in Iran and impacted regionally as Iran was named itself as a capable, the only capable state to pose a threat to Israel and to have arms in the region, on top of which Hezbollah previously or Al-Assad's regimes or even the Houthis. The assassination of Haniyeh, in addition to Iran's support to Hamas at that time, the assassination of Haniyeh gave a very negative impression of Iranians' capability in pertaining its regional system and its failure of security inside that led therefore the hesitation of the Iranian image regionally or domestically inside Iran. A great portion of Iran the political discourse targeted inside Iran, not outside Iran, and therefore the orientation of the political discourse within Iran witnessed some sort of hesitation or non-confidence directed to the Iranian people. If Iran wasn't able to secure its internal border or its intelligence border, then it became very easy to penetrate inside. That was the Iranian people were saying. That led to the escalation of the tension between Iran and Israel as a correction of reformulated regional image within and before the people inside Iran in that matter.
So you've highlighted the difference and the shift in governance under the rule of Pezeshkian as opposed to his predecessor. So what are the key challenges locally that are facing Masoud Pezeshkian as Iran's new president?
In fact, Pezeshkian is facing several challenges, most importantly the economic file inside Iran and the regional dossier. In addition, that Iran's direction to lift the sanctions or to deal with the Western countries. Domestically, Pezeshkian came in a very critical point with respect to the Iranian economy. We are talking about that a state of inflation rate that exceeded 40%, that alarms an economic crisis, and the decrease of wages inside and the conflicts of the political spectrum economically, i.e. that Iran is dominated economically by the Revolutionary Guard system, And the main challenge before Pezeshkian is attempt to have a solution of economic dominated by the opposition, or to be opened before the free market that Pezeshkian pursue. And therefore the economic file is in a very sensitive and sophisticated on the popular level and at the state level. So the main challenge before Pezeshkian that led him to be president as such chosen by the electoral people, which is the improve the economy within inside, which is the most important file to Pakistan. And then the most important challenge is the level of the regional relations or the regional challenges that are very big. The timing of choosing Bidakshar to take the post of the president is very critical, as the region is on fire currently. The time of choosing Bidakshar, we've had the crisis between Hamas and Israel, and the beginning of entering Lebanon in that phase, and the disagreement with the Syrian regime. All these issues were on the table before Pezeshkian for discussion or to issue decisive resolution, but Pezeshkian was trying all the time to maintain the space of the regional relations, in particular with the Gulf countries or the regional states in general, and made several visits to strengthen Iran's relations with the neighboring countries. In addition to his personal desire to improve the relation to the Egyptian state, added to his attempt on the Western and international level to showcase Iran as a more opening state to negotiate with the West, taking into consideration that upon the timing of the inauguration of Pezeshkian, so at the beginning of presidential elections in the USA, that led to Donald Trump to be a president. Therefore, he has a great challenge before Trump that deals with Iran as a state, a hostile state to USA, and before Iran, an international challenge to improve the relations with the Arab countries and the USA in particular. The most importantly, the challenge in Pezeshkian is to lift the economic sanctions to improve the image of Iran, in addition to an attempt of improving the economy inside. That most reports indicate that Iran is approaching a very important and dangerous economic crisis if it is not to improve or partially to lift some sanctions. In addition to the nuclear dossier and its negotiations between Iran and the Western Bloc, which is one of the biggest files to be dealt by Pezeshkian. In another way, it is trying to maintain the Iranian relations with the Western axis or the Eastern axis, such as Russia and China, and the negotiations between Iran and Russia that has a great positive impact in this time. Before Pezeshkian, several challenges domestically, regionally, and internationally, and he's trying to deal in a way or another very sensitively that all the files are intercepted with each other between the internal or domestic affairs and the regional and the international affairs as well.
Dr. Lasheen, please stay with us. We will continue our discussion, but let's take a look right now at the escalating Israeli-Iranian tensions in 2024, with military actions and regional involvement intensifying. Stay with us.
The year 2024 has become a defining chapter in the protracted tensions between Israel and Iran, culminating in a direct confrontation after decades of animosity. This clash unfolded amid Israel's continued aggression in Gaza and the growing involvement of regional actors, including Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and Syria, following the escalation of violence on October 7, 2023. The confrontation officially began on April 1st, when Israel launched an airstrike targeting the Iranian consulate adjacent to its embassy in Damascus, Syria. The strike resulted in 16 fatalities, including Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior commander in the Quds Force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and 7 other Iranian officers. Iranian officials swiftly condemned the attack and vowed retaliation. The situation escalated dramatically on April 12, when Iran, with support from Yemen's Houthis, launched a large-scale assault on Israel. This operation involved over 300 missiles and 170 drones. Despite Israel intercepting most of the missiles, the attack intensified tensions, prompting Israel to promise further strikes in retaliation. A critical turning point occurred on July 31st, with the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, head of Hamas's political bureau, in Tehran. Haniyeh was killed at a Revolutionary Guard facility while attending the inauguration of Iran's new president. Iran declared its intent to respond forcefully, framing the assassination as a violation of its sovereignty. The conflict further escalated on October 1st, when Iran launched another wave of missile attacks targeting various locations across Israel, including military bases. The strikes followed Israel's earlier assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut, heightening regional instability. The cycle of violence and retaliation has defined 2024, marking it as a year of escalating confrontations and mutual vengeance, with profound implications for the region's stability.
Welcome back. We're still joined from Cairo by the Iranian Studies Professor, Dr. Ahmed Lasheen. Dr. Lasheen, now regarding the Israel-Iranian tensions, what role did regional actors such as Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq play in terms of raising or mitigating or exacerbating the relationship between Israel and Iran?
The exacerbation of the tension between Iran and Israel have increased strongly in the past months, not only through the exchange of fires between the two countries, but Israelis attempted to dominate the southern of Lebanon and the most important Iranian arm, which is Hezbollah. There is a turning point between Iran and Israel relations. Upon the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah or Safiuddin or others, important leaders of Lebanese Hezbollah system that negatively reflected to the nature of the tension between Israel and Iran. In particular, with Israeli attempts to storm the southern of Iran and the domination of the Lebanese of influence spaces in the southern Lebanon, and therefore the Lebanese influence in the south of Lebanon. All these elements, in addition to what have been witnessed in Syria, which is the fall of Assad's regime, Iran clearly considers, even on the level of the paper's statement, that what happened in Syria is a space of Israeli occupation to Syria, as considering that Syria is under Turkish and American Israeli occupation, as announced in Iranian papers such as Giham, that is linked to the Iranian guide. And this may lead to a space of tension, in addition, political tension, and in naturally the military escalation. As within Israel, there are strong calls to hit the nuclear Iranian facilities, for instance, in return, and a great rejection by the Iranian Sadiant, and a vow if there is an aggression within Iran to retaliate strongly. Iran has lost a great influence, and its influence in Syria, its great spaces of its regional influence in favor of the expansion of the Israeli influence in the region, with respect to in the eastern borders to Iran. And therefore, the tension of Israeli Iranian states from or to unpredictable military escalation. Iran is trying to regain a space of influence within Syria, trying to impose itself as an element of negotiations between the different Syrian factions in a bid to negotiate with the Islamic Sunni governing Syrian state factions before the Alawis factions and others supported or affiliated to Iran within Syria, and trying to make a negotiation pattern with Turkey, as Turkey has a great influence in Syria currently. Iran is trying to regain a part of its regional influence before a strong Israeli expansion in the past months. That would lead to a military escalation, but provided with the American approval, as America should approve, in particular, Trump's administration for any military escalation between Iran and Israel. That Israel isn't going to practice militarily without the American approval, as it is the military backup in favor or in front of Iran in this phase.
And how significant was Israel's airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus in triggering the conflict?
The very important point, as you highlighted, was the bombing the Iranian consulate and killing several of elements of Revolutionary Guard in Syria. Iran had therefore a very negative stance before the assassination of the Iranian element in their consulate. We're talking about leaders in revolutionary leaders such as Failik al-Quds as the most dominant regional military arm in Iran. So that made Iran in a very alert militarily. That led to the state of exchange in the rockets previously, and the loss of Iran, the leaders of the Revolutionary Guard, and the assassination of leaders of Hezbollah, and the very important elements of Al-Assad regime. All these loss as a whole goes in favor of Israel, as Israel has exposed a great portion of the security dilemma within Iran or regionally, and exposed also in a great important spaces of the intel operations made by Iran within Syria and Lebanon previously. And therefore, the overall view of the Iranian system is negative, even inside Iran itself or within the resistance axis, as looking at Iran that is incapable of support strongly its protection of the Israeli extension or the Israeli intel operation. Therefore, this isn't the first time of the assassination of the Revolutionary Guard. Before the consulate incident, we've had more than 25 Israeli operations within Syria against the Revolutionary Iranian Guards. Israel is capable all the time to penetrate the Iranian system regionally. But the operation for this consulate is the big crown of the Israeli penetration of the Iranian military system or the intelligence Iranian system.
Dr. Lasheen, to what extent has the Houthis' involvement in the conflict impacted the dynamics between Israel and Iran?
The last Iranian state arm in the right time, now. Let's just indicate that the Houthis' affiliation to Iran isn't only based on doctrines as there are in a doctrine disagreements between Iran and Houthis, but the leadership is relied on the regional economic interests. Let's be more specific. By the spaces of the Houthis' influence practiced in favor of Iran, firstly, is posing a great threat to the Israeli state. That most of the missiles launched from Yemen are made by Iran. Even the last missile that proclaimed is a supersonic that reached in the depths of Tel Aviv, made by Iran. But in addition to the Israeli threat, the Houthis is practicing a militarily influence on the El-Harab Sea and the Bab el-Mandab Strait that represent partially an interest of Iran, but for the resistant accents, they are interestly related to Russia and China. That may explain for us somehow that the American presence in the same geographical space in the Red Sea. The conflict here over exceeded the extension of the Iranian influences, as Iran, through the Houthis influences, is fulfilled the interest of the Eastern axis on the military and trade levels, and to the denomination of Bahr al-Araban. That led that this space, that it is a space of a great conflict between the West, represented of USA and England, in addition to the Chinese, Russian portion represented by the Houthis. Therefore, the Houthis aren't only an Iranian arm, but is strongly linked, practicing a great influence in favor of Russia and China. In addition, that the Houthis also are the last strong arms of Iran that are on the ground after the fall of Hezbollah and al-Assad's regime. And but after the division of a great portion of the Iraqi factions of Iran, what is left now are the Houthis, representing the most important threat against Israel in a way or another, and pose the faraway threat against the American or the English interest in Bahr al-Arab, in a fear of the domination of the eastern axis on the trade lines. So it is an intercepted crisis, the economic influence, the military influence, and the regional influence. And there are great interceptions of these two areas related to the interception of the eastern axis and the Western Bloc in general.
Mm-hmm. And what strategies might be employed to prevent further escalation and bring about a ceasefire? Is there a role for the US and Russia to play in this regard?
Ceasefire to launch or to establish a ceasefire between Houthis and Israel. This is what you meant? Do you mean?
Sir, what strategies might be employed to prevent further escalation and bring about a ceasefire? Do you feel that the US and Russia might have a role to play in this regard?
I think that the United States of America, in particular, of the role of Donald Trump, that will have a great and pivotal role in reforming in the effective factors in the Middle East in general. But the matter is that is related to more intercepted, such as the Russian interests to be gained by Russia in its war with Ukraine if it is tried to negotiate perfectly with Trump, and that would goes to the Middle East, that Russia wouldn't, let alone its stances of the war in Ukraine, if it has an interest in the Middle East as an alternative for its interest in Europe, as the United States will reform to reformulate the effective factors in the neighboring Middle East countries. In particular, that Israel is trying all the time, or Netanyahu's government, to increase the fire in the region in general. We try we've noticed that the more there is a negotiation regarding Gaza, and they would lead or reach to a positive point, Netanyahu comes to directed at the beginning to the corner one. So they pursue to fulfill the satisfaction of the far-right wing of Netanyahu. Israel was in Gaza and headed to the southern of Lebanon, Al-Julan in Syria, and try to put the region in fire with the Houthis. All these elements that ignited by Israel will ultimately and partially stop with the arrival of Trump to the presidency. Trump is going to try to reformulate or reshape the region.
Dr. Lasheen, I apologize, but I'll have to cut you off because we're running out of time. Dr. Ahmed Lasheen, the Iranian Studies Professor, thank you very much for joining us and for your insights. And as 2024 draws to a close, Iran stands at a critical juncture, with its regional influence and military actions shaping the Middle East's volatile future. The year's confrontations have not only deepened its conflict with Israel, but also intensified broader regional instability, leaving the world watching closely as tensions continue to escalate. And by this we come to the end of the recap and review of the Iranian file here on Qnews. But please don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us and have a happy New Year.